Imagine this, it is 5:30 in the morning, snow everywhere, pitch black. I'm running to catch the bus. I can literally touch the bus. The driver sees me, closes the door and drives off. Now that's when I realized that I needed a car and I needed to pass my driving test. Hey Soupies, welcome back again to the channel. So today I'm going to be giving a complete breakdown of how I passed my UK driving test on first sitting. I made a video last week unboxing my UK driving license that I received by post. If you haven't watched that video, please click the link up here so you can catch up. And if you're also curious to know what the UK driving license actually looks like, then you want to watch that video. I passed my UK practical driving test June this year. I took the test on June 13, 2025. I'm like barely 6 months driving, but it feels like I've been driving for such a long time. And I think, purchasing my car last year, December 2024, played a huge role. So before I even go into this video, one of the things I would want to say is if you have the capacity, if you're sure you're at the point where you want to drive in the UK, you want to start practicing, it might be helpful to get your car so that you can start driving. But bear in mind as well that you would need to have an individual. It could be a friend or family member or a licensed driving instructor who would be in the car, and they must have had their driving license for up to 3 years in the UK. Passed my practical test June this year, and I took my driving theory last year around March 2024, just before I moved down to Scotland. And guys, it had been a lot of hassles because I know I'd had to move the theory test about, I think I was like on my last straw of moving the theory test before I had to then move to Scotland, and that was like the break point for me. So I used this official DVSA app to practice for my theory. I promise you that if you can go through that app, theory app, the official DVSA app, if you can go through that app at least once, you have the time to read through the manuals, that's fine. If you can go through all the questions, and whenever you go through the questions, make sure that you go through the corrections, the ones you filled. For every question you fill, they always leave the correct answers and the explanations. Make sure you read through those explanations as well to get the right answers before you proceed to start another new batch of questions. If you can do that at least once and then do a bit of revision again, you are good to go for the theory test, because that's exactly what I did, and I smashed it in flying colors. You will be seeing my result literally pop up on the screen just now. I did so well, I literally shocked myself. Immediately I passed the theory test, I did something very spontaneous. I went ahead to book my practical test, even though I had no plan whatsoever. So I think I booked it 2 months after I passed my theory test. I had no plan whatsoever on how I was going to go about it. You can actually go ahead to book your practical test. I think you can move your dates up to 6 times before you would have to probably pay again, but just make sure that when you're booking, you have your test, or you have the intention to actually sit for the test. So I booked around May last year, and I literally took the exam June this year. So once you pass your theory test, you have the grace of 2 years to take your practical driving test. If you don't do that within 2 years from the day you've passed your theory test, you would have to start the whole process again. And by starting the whole process, I mean you would have to sit for another theory driving test before you can then book your practical driving test. You're trying to currently book, you see that it's quite competitive to get selected dates. There's a backlog of people that have been waiting for such a long time now. You might not even be able to get any dates. Definitely this year is totally gone. If you're even looking to book a date for next year, you might not even see dates until like maybe middle of the year or even towards the end of the year. That's how competitive and tight it's become. My thing was, I'm going to book way ahead and then just work my way to planning how I was going to take the test and pass the test. So if you do that, good and fine, especially now that it's quite competitive, you might want to book way ahead, but just make sure that while you're doing that, you are seriously preparing as well, so that you don't have to keep moving and moving. So let's look at a quick overview of the UK theory test. So it takes about 1 hour to complete, and it's in 2 parts. You've got the multiple choice questions and you've got the hazard perception clips. Now for the multiple choice part, you've got 50 questions. Take you about 57 minutes to complete. Out of the 50, you need to get 43 questions right to enable you pass. And the questions here would cover road signs, rules of the road, safety, vehicle handling, motorway rules, and the rest of it. And moving on to hazard perception, you have 14 video clips, and each of those videos will have at least 1 developing hazard, and 1 clip could actually have 2 potential hazards. Now it has a total of 75 points, and you need to get 44 points right in order for you to pass. You would have to get the pass points of these 2 sections to enable you successfully pass your driving theory test. For the practical driving test, this takes about 40 minutes to complete, and you usually start with an eye test where you're asked to read a license plate number within 20 meters from eye range. If you are someone like me who's got myopia, who is short-sighted, you definitely want to make sure that you have your reading glasses or your eyeglasses on the day of your test. I made sure that that was the first thing I put into my bag on the day of my test, so I don't forget it. Because if you can't read that license plate number 20 meters away from you, there is not going to be any test at all. Your test will literally be cancelled there and then. So it's the first thing that they get you to do on the day of your driving practical test. After your eye test, you would move on to do one show me question and one tell me question. If you're already in the process of taking your UK driving test, you would have come across the tell me questions and the show me questions. Tell me questions, for example, tell me how you would know that your brake pedals are working. Tell me how you would know that your indicator lights are working. Tell me how you would confirm your tire pressure, and you know, all that stuff. Those are the kind of tell me questions. You have to tell the examiner these things verbally, but then you move on to, and it's just one tell me question, but you have to make sure that you know all the tell me questions available. You can always go to the gov.uk website to find those questions, this tell me and show me questions. Make sure that you know all your tell me and show me questions, because you don't know which one you will be asked to describe. After the tell me questions, you go on to get into your vehicle and then do a show me question. The show me can happen while you're still within the driving test center or even on your way en route. So you could be asked to show the examiner how to demystify your front windscreen or your rear screen. You could be asked to show them how to wash your either the front windscreen or the rear windscreen, and you know, other kind of questions like that. So make sure that you know all the tell me and the show me questions. Very important, because the terrible thing you would not want for yourself is to start failing the test even before you actually start the driving. These are things that could actually destabilize you, so you want to make sure that you've got that in check. Once you've started your driving, there are different sections to this. So you have the general driving, and then you have the independent driving. So with the general driving, you know, I think that's mostly where your examiner is telling you, or take the next left, and you could do that for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then you then proceed to independent driving, where you will need to follow either a sat nav or you would have to follow a road sign. Your examiner would literally tell you which you're going to be doing just before you start. You could either follow the sat nav or you could follow road signs, where they tell you follow the signs to Dundee or follow the signs to Edinburgh. Or you'll have a tom-tom in the car that the examiner would have come with, and you know, he'll tell you follow the sat nav's direction, and you'd have to do that for about 20 minutes. And during this time, you would encounter a lot of roads, the urban roads, the rural roads, country roads, dual carriageways, depending on what route you are taking. In terms of maneuvers, the different driving maneuvers that you would have to take for the test. Just like the tell me, show me questions, there are also different maneuvers, and you will only be asked to do one maneuver, but you have to practice the different types of maneuvers, just so that, you know, whichever one you are asked to do, you will be able to safely carry out that maneuver. There is the pull up to the right maneuver, there is the parallel park maneuver, there's the reverse bay park maneuver, there's also the forward bay park maneuver. And this is not basically a maneuver, but there's also the emergency stop, which most times they would ask you to do an emergency stop and one other kind of maneuver. Generally, with the eye test, with the show me tell me question, and then with the driving, you're looking at a total of 40 to 45 minutes roughly. Now, when you're doing your UK driving test, you're allowed up to 15 minor faults, but you're allowed 0 major or dangerous faults, because this could actually lead to potential harm. Now, I wouldn't be going into talking about the minor faults or the major or dangerous faults, but if you want me to make another video explaining further, leave a comment for me in the comment box, and I'll be happy to make a separate video about that. Now, talking about why I opted to drive. Back home where I come from, driving was more of like, you know, luxury, was more of, you know, showing who the big boys were in town. And I came to this part of the world and discovered that driving was a life-saving mechanism. Literally, it would save you from a lot of hassles, even keep you safe. Guys, there were lots of times where I would be running to catch the bus, especially during the winter seasons. It's so hard, because then the buses are running late, the roads are very unsafe, you're literally running on ice all the time just to catch the bus. So many times I have almost slept going to work. So many times I would have to stand in the cold for, you know, close to an hour or even about an hour before I can get the bus, because the bus will keep running late and all that stuff. Guys, it is terrible. You want to go to a place that is just 7 minutes drive, but you would have to take a bus that would take you almost 2 hours to get to the place. I went through through this whole hassle for 3 years and decided that nah, enough is enough. Prior to this, like I said, I already booked my practical driving test, but I just didn't have the courage to actually take the test. Guys, I don't want to go into giving like all the deets about every single hassle and every single frustration that I encountered. But if you've tried to take the test before, or you're in the process of taking the test, you'll understand pretty much everything that I'm saying. It is so exhausting, and there were literally times where I almost gave up. But there's the kind of stress that you would go through, and you would have to just tell yourself that we are here, we're stuck here, and we have to get this done. And that's where I got to, and I was just like, no, I'm gonna have to push through to get this done. So I decided that I was going to pass my driving test. Now, people would ask, how many hours of driving should I pretty much do? Now, this is very subjective, and it also depends on, you know, your experience with driving. The people that used to drive from, you know, their home countries, and now they've come to the UK, so they have an experience of what it means to drive a car. They know how the car works, the controls, and you know, the operations of a car. And you have some other people that have never driven before, so the amount of hours that this other person that has driven would take might not be the same necessarily for someone who has no prior experience at all in the UK or anywhere driving. I had a bit of experience driving before I came to the UK, but I didn't consider it sufficient enough to, you know, give me that courage to just go ahead and book a few hours. And for me, it was just a lot of self-doubt. And I think that's what I want to say in this video. Like, ignore self-doubt. It's always going to be there, but just make sure that you're able to pull through from it. It took me over a year since I booked my theory test since I booked my practical test before I decided to go for it. And that was the same thing I did with my theory test as well. Do not be Sandra, don't be me, guys. If you have booked already, you're ready to go for it, don't keep moving those dates forward. Don't keep procrastinating those dates. Just go ahead and take the test. Okay, it's not as bad as you think, trust me. I initially started trying to practice last year October, and then I looked for a driving instructor, a licensed one, who started teaching me how to drive. And I think I initially booked like 10 hours with this person, and after the 10 hours it did feel like I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't prepared, and you know, it was a case of when I booked it, because I already had my practical test booked. Some people will say start your practice before you go ahead to book for your driving test, but I already had mine booked since like May 2024, and it was like October that I was like, okay, I'm going to start taking this seriously. I'm going to start practicing. Most of the instructors would only take minimum of 2 hours booking for each session, so 2 hours and a total of 10 hours. That would be 5 classes. So I did that just to test the waters, and after approaching the 10 hours I just realized, nah, this is not going to work. And it's also quite expensive booking for your practice lessons. Some people charge like up to 40-50 pounds an hour, and then you have to do a minimum of 2 hours, so that's between 80 to 100 pounds an hour. Some places are more expensive and some places are a bit cheaper, but I think the standard is usually 40 pounds an hour. That already was amounting to 400 pounds. So towards the end of my 10 hours, I think from like the 6th hour I was like, I don't see how this is going to work. I think I need more hours to book for these classes, and that was what I did. I went ahead to book extra 10 hours. Booking of driving test hours can vary a lot. Like you can have an extension, an unnecessary extension of how many hours you book, and this can stem from a lot of factors, but I want to dwell on the driving instructor factor. Now, there are people that get driving instructors and realize that they're not learning enough, or they're not learning as much as they thought they would learn, or they don't just like the attitude of their driving instructor, or they're too scared to say, or they just feel like, oh, I just have to oblige to everything that they're saying. No, you don't have to oblige to everything that you're saying. You're paying these people, you're paying these instructors to teach you how to drive. Some people will say, oh, he or she is so friendly, I don't know how to tell them that I don't think I'm learning as much as I thought I would learn, or their teaching pattern doesn't work for you. You're like, oh, he's too nice, I don't want to offend him. You are not there to be friendly with anybody. Nobody's saying you shouldn't be friendly, but if being too over friendly is inhibiting you from expressing yourself about how you feel with your classes, then you need to make a stop to that and actually speak up, because you're paying a lot of money. The last thing you want to do is pay that much and not gain the value that you're supposed to gain from those classes. If you get to a point where you've had series of hours and you think that, you know, they should organize a mock test for you just to test to see what you're doing, you should be able to ask for it. There are so many instructors that would not want to organize a mock test for you, you know, for reasons best known to them. yeah, some of them have valid reasons. They think you're not ready. But I mean, if you've done 20 hours, they should be able to organize a mock test for you and see how you get on. And if you fail, you fail. That's what the mock tests are for. And then at least you know where you're struggling with, where you have, you know, lesser power, where you need to put in more effort and all that stuff. You need to be able to strike the difference between someone who is really caring about safety and someone who just wants you to pay a lot more. And like I said before, in terms of like getting ready for your driving test, you want to make sure that, you know, before you can even go for your theory, you would have been able to apply for your UK provisional license. I always advise people, like, that's like, it's the easiest thing to do. All you have to do is either apply online or go to the post office and pick up the DVSA form. Now for the practical test, it would be advisable to book with a licensed driving instructor, honestly, especially if you're coming from outside the country. It's a different thing. And I always tell people, like, even if you've been driving for like 50 years back home, when you come here, you want to format your head of everything that you think you know, because if you come to this country with the idea of, you know, your previous driving, you will fail. And that's why many people that have been, you know, have like years of experience driving in their home countries come here and they're taking the test for up to 6 times and they're like, I don't understand why I'm failing. I'm an expert driver back home. I drive trucks, I drive this, I drive that. That's not what it takes. The system here is quite different. The roads are different, the routes are different, the signs are way more, the road signs are way more, the principles, the techniques, everything is just different. So if you're coming here to learn how to drive, you need to act like you're a novice and you're just starting afresh. So aside from using a licensed driving instructor, I also mentioned that it helps if you have, you know, close family friends or friends in general, or even your partner, your spouse, who can get you to do some driving. There are people that don't even pay driving instructors. They just use their family friends or their, you know, relatives to teach them how to drive. So whatever really works for you. All that it takes, guys, is just practice, 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 practice. The more you practice, the more comfortable you get. There were times where I told myself, I don't think I can actually navigate UK roads. I don't think I would ever be able to actually drive. But guys, if you see me on the road now, oh my God, it is such a huge difference. I feel like if you even see me on the roads these days, you will not know that I just passed in June. You think I've been driving for such a long time, but that's just what it takes. Continuous practice, continuous driving, and that's how you will get what you need. Going for your practical test, you want to make sure that you get enough rest before the day of test. So there's nothing you want to overly practice throughout the night. Just get enough rest. Always look for what works for you. I try to get enough sleep overnight, woke up very early in the morning, drove out, did some maneuvers. One thing as well that I wouldn't say really helped me, because I found out late, but one thing that could help you as well is having the app for the driving test routes in your zone. So whatever zone you're taking your test, you want to make sure that you have the app that would give you the possible test routes, and then you can use that to practice. So you can decide to do a bit of driving in the morning, or, you know, a few hours before you actually go for your test. Some people will go with their driving instructor. Some people would go with their friends or relatives that has been teaching them how to drive. You can either go with your own car you've been using to practice, or the driving instructor's car. I mean, you just have to make sure that the car is in an immaculate state. If there's anything that I've said in this video that you need more clarifications on, please leave me a comment in the comment box. I know this video is already lengthy as it is, so I don't want to extend it further than it is already. Try as much as possible to be the one to drive yourself to the test center, just to make you more comfortable, you know, with driving. And also it's a way to help you relieve stress and, you know, anxiety. Always just present with a smile. You don't want to do too much, but just make sure that you have this welcoming approach to your examiner. Get there on time. Just make sure that you're there at least 10 to 15 minutes for your test time. Make sure you have your water bottle with you. You're allowed to drink water. Get to your exam center, get to the reception. I think you'd have to wait for, you know, a few minutes till your instructor comes out. When they come out, make sure you have a welcoming approach. Answer the questions that you're being asked. They would ask for your license just to confirm. So you're allowed to take someone in the car with you. It could be a friend or, you know, your instructor. So they will ask you if you want someone to accompany you. Just try to be calm as much as possible. I know it's easier said than done, but you would want to do everything within your possible power to make sure that you are calm, because if you're not, that is just a straight way ticket to fail the test. And I just want to also say that on the day of your test, if you make a mistake, do your possible best to regain your composure immediately. They don't want you to be perfect. They don't expect you to be perfect. They just want to make sure that you are a safe driver. I think that was the key for me. That was something that I had in my mind all through. When you're driving, all that is in your mind is that you want to be a safe driver. They don't really care about you impressing them like that. Just get them safe, because they're putting their lives as well in your hand, getting you to drive them for 40 minutes. Trust me, they want to make sure that you're safe, not to impress them. Now, after your driving test, you'll be asked to pull up when it's safe to do so, and then you'll be told most likely you would end up back again at the test center. That's when you'll be told whether you passed or if you failed. If you pass, what your instructor would ask is that you give them your provisional driving license, and then they will give you a test certificate that you would hold and use pending when you are sent your full UK driving license. And I think it takes about 21 days before you would get your full UK driving license. That's what they tell you, but I got mine within the week, like I think about a week, and then I received my full UK driving license. Okay, so guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video so far, and I hope you've gotten valuable content from it. If there anything that I've said in this video that you need more clarifications on, please do not hesitate to leave me a comment in the comment box, and I'll be happy to make a video explaining further. And guys, if you have your driving test coming up or your theory test coming up in a few days or in a few months, let's know in the comment section. Okay, you could find someone who is willing to help you, or from stories shared or experiences shared, you could also learn a thing or two. Okay, if you've passed your test recently as well, leave us a comment and tell us what helped you, or what your show me tell me questions were. Let's have a whole chat in the comment box. Also, don't forget to like and share this video if you think that you've gotten valuable content from this video, or you think this video can help out someone that is currently preparing or in the process of taking their test. Please share this video to them as well, because it could really help them. And comment checklist in the chat box if you want me to make a printable test day checklist, checklist that would help you know the bits and pieces of everything that you would need for your test day. Just leave a comment and say checklist in the chat box, and I'll be happy to make a checklist for you. If you've stayed this far, guys, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment for me as well. And if you haven't turned on your post notification, please do so when there are videos like this or similar content, you'll be the first to get notified. See you in my next video, guys.